5th of Feb 2025, our first full council of 2025. I'd like to welcome back to the Chamber Councillor Kevin Tao. Your absence has been dreadfully missed. So, and we'll start by a few words from Claire. Should we all be upstanding?
I've been thinking over the last week or so, a few times it's come up to think about the Serenity Prayer. So I just want to share that with you and some thoughts that it leads on to. So God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And closely followed by that, I'm going to quote the great theologian Maxi Jazz from Faithless, who said that inaction is a weapon of mass destruction. I find in life that there's nothing more frustrating than apathy, other than people who are determined to complain about where we are as if that's going to change it. So my prayer for you is to use the power and the voice that you've been given to change things for good without worrying about why we are where we are. Decide what those things are that we can change and change them. I've been listening to a podcast from some vicars in America who have been struggling with some of the changes there recently. And what they've come up with is that they can't change the whole country. They can't change the legislation. What they can do is change things in their immediate locality for the people around them. And I think that's all we can ever hope to do. So as we join together for this evening, I hope that we can change the world for the people around us here in Newquay. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you. There we go. Okie doke. So then, thank you to the Reverend Claire Anderson for her thoughtful words this evening. And we're going to move on to item number 1, which is apologies. Andy?
Good evening, members. Apologies are received from Councillors Wright, Cheney, Monk and Gouge.
Thank you. Missing a few people then. Interests, so as and when, if you've got any interest, please declare those and we can seek some advice from the clerk if needs be. And we'll move into item 3, minutes of the full council meeting on the 4th of December 2024. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review them. Does anyone have any questions or concerns on those minutes? Councillor Williamson. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Kenny. Yeah, quite right. Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Just make sure we all use our mics this evening, please. That would be great. Any other questions, queries, concerns, minutes from the 4th of December? No? Okay. I'm happy to propose those. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Any abstentions or one abstention? And any objections? No. Thank you. Oh, did I need to do the confidential addendum as well? Yeah. Separately? Oh, okay. So we've done that. That's fine. Item 4, matters arising. And I think that we had the Hotel Bristol issue where we were looking for some picture evidence of any health and safety concerns around the Hotel Bristol. Obviously, since the last meeting, we've had a couple of significant storms and hurricane, tornado. And I know when I went past the Hotel Bristol, though, I didn't take a picture, so apologies. There are lots of top roof tiles flying off everywhere, and there's a rather large section of a raised patio, a sort of decking at the back that seems to be hanging on a telephone cable. So I'll try and take some pictures and send those over. Anyone else had any pictures of that, please send them to the clerk. Otherwise, we'll close that one off. Any other matters arising?
Just to confirm, the letter has gone in terms of the Newquay Hospital position.
Yes, and we have a meeting with the ICB chair and CEO in March, don't we, to talk about the MIU. Thanks, Andy. Councillor Kenny?
Just on the same topic of the building, if anyone's got any concern, which is Skerry Vore, which is clearly, I had a meeting today with the agent, and they are looking at that. They've got all the tiles off. I mean, it looks terrible, but they feel it's safe for the moment. Whether it is or not, one more storm and we'll find out.
Yeah, for sure. Councillor Hannon, did you have your hand up? Sorry. No. Oh, no. Oh, no, that's fine. Perfect. So that's matters arising then. Item 5 is the community safety reports from the police. Unfortunately, Inspector Johnson is unable to attend this morning. He's got man flu. So we send him our well wishes, but he did say any thoughts on or any questions, please send them over to him. So I'll ask now, do we have any questions on the report as read? No questions. Otherwise, if you do have any follow-ups, please send those to Andy and he will collate them to send to Inspector Johnson this week, please. Then we've got item 6, which is an open session for the electors of Newquay, verbal or, sorry, did I need to vote for the, no, it's not for noting, is it? No. It's been a while. Open session for electors of Newquay, verbal or written. I don't think we've got any written questions, have we? No. Anyone in the gallery wish to speak on any items? No? Okay, thank you. John, we'll give you an opportunity to speak shortly. Thank you and welcome. Okay, item 7 then. So 7A is a letter from the Mayor of Marazion, and this is regards to the a motion of no confidence in Cornwall Council's Planning and Enforcement Department. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review this particular piece of correspondence, and I'm sure the clerk will give us a brief overview on that.
Yep, so basically this is a letter from Marazion Town Council seeking support from other councils in the area regarding a motion to Cornwall Council in relation to their planning department. It's a motion of no confidence. An example has been given and a draft motion has been provided. I believe that's on page 1, the bottom of page 1. And they also go into a bit of context about their experiences with the planning department recently and why they feel it's justified. I am conscious that this council has attempted a judicial review in terms of a particular planning matter, albeit that may not be similar in nature to this. So I'm conscious we have had some experience with planning, but I don't know whether through the chair of planning here has a view on this project.
Yeah, I'm happy to defer to the Chair of Planning and the Vice Chair of Planning. This isn't an area of expertise other than our own frustrations, I think, as a council around some of the Hotel Bristol and other decisions made by Cornwall Council's planning department. So, Councillor Kenny, did you have anything
Yes,
to...
we discussed this in planning and licensing yesterday. We're not going to support the call. It's very much, I think, aimed at the whole department. Yeah, what happened with the Bristol was disgrace, but it was down to 2 individuals who are not here to defend themselves. And that isn't sufficient reason to condemn the whole department. I understand their frustration with enforcement. It is not their fault that they are not sufficiently. If the motion had been to criticise Cornwall Council for not properly resourcing enforcement, I'll be signing my name on the. I'll be there like that. But this is attacking the officers. We don't always agree. The system is built up so that we don't always agree, but that doesn't mean to say these guys don't work incredibly hard and they genuinely do their best. So I certainly won't be supporting this motion.
Okay, Councillor Thompson as Vice Chair of Planning, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd concur with that. It's just that I think phrasing it that support on the staffing, but there's occasions, particularly with enforcement, that it's been particularly slow, and the lack of resources which have it seems at face value that they've gone in that direction. I was thinking of Proud Park as well, with sort of the lack of enforcement that's gone on there, and other enforcement cases. And if they're understaffed, then that is a huge issue and a failing of Cornwall Council and how it's been divvied out budget-wise for that. So, yeah.
Councillor Tao.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm not too clear about who the vote of no confidence is actually focused against. Is it the administration? Is it the cabinet? Is it the officers? Is it the legislation? I'm not happy that it doesn't focus down enough on what they're trying to complain about. So, yeah, I won't be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to speak on the item? Councillor Williamson.
Hi, thank you. I agree with the comments that have been raised so far. However, I also think that there are some frustrations from residents of Newquay that the process of the planning and how it works, and the two examples that we've heard today, which we could probably list many others if we had a bit more time, spontaneously mention them. So whilst my view is that we wouldn't necessarily support the wording that they've put forward, but I do support the spirit of their frustration, and whether we as town councils can all work together to try to work with Cornwall Council to try to resolve some of these issues might be a slightly more harmonious approach. So any response back to Marazion, I would want that to be in a constructive, supportive, but apologies type approach, as opposed to no. That's my view.
Okay, Councillor Larson, then Councillor Kenny.
Thanks. I've served on the planning committee for almost 3 years now. It is interesting, a bit of a surprise, the letter. Two cases our planning chair and vice chair have mentioned where hundreds of community voices have been overridden. And it sounds as though we're all discussing the difference between, in a sense, the leadership on planning versus the officers. I agree that, and I think it's a national conversation in British media, that planning officers are often under-resourced and quite possibly and probably here in Cornwall. But even if we look at that case on Proud Park, there's almost a dereliction of duty by the officers. To the best of our knowledge, that wasn't about anybody above the officers overriding. It was a poor decision making. So whilst I agree that we would rather see the officers resourced appropriately, and as I say, that is a national conversation going on and hopefully is going to improve in the coming year or so, at the same time, many of us have probably worked in jobs where you have to stand up to your manager and leadership at times and say, I'm sorry, but this is an ethical issue. This is my job to represent what the community, and as this letter says, the law says is the case, which is that communities' voices should be heard. And if we think about Proud Park, there's a breach of planning law going on there, it seems, to those of us on the committee. So I would actually like to vote for it. I agree that the wording could have been maybe a bit more specific. I also have empathy for planning officers, many of whom I agree do their jobs really well. We do see some smart decisions at times, but we are overridden endlessly. And most importantly, when community voices speak up, unfortunately, seems to be when we're overridden the most. And on cases where, at least if we look at Proud Park, it appears to have been a breach of planning law in itself. And I think that needs calling out. So if we're going to have a vote, I would vote for it on those grounds, whilst supporting a letter that indicates that we understand that many officers are diligent and really doing their jobs. And but at times, perhaps, and I don't know all the inside details, I don't know the planning officers personally, but the result we get back to the communities is that basic sort of rules essentially don't seem to have been followed.
Councillor Kenny?
I'm going to start with Proud Park, because the problem with Proud Park is that everything that was done there was done without planning permission. Now, that's not the fault of the officers. That is the fault of the developer who did that. And we've basically, for the last few months, we've been catching up with application, what they call retrospective application after retrospective application. There is one, and I'm not going to go into it now, where effectively we objected, it was taken to committee, the committee disagreed with the officers, which is entirely normal, and that has now gone to appeal, and we're now waiting for the result. So I think, yes, what happened on Proud Park was annoying, but it was not the officers' fault. That, you know, they're not there, they're not detectives, they're not there to see every single person who builds something that they haven't got permission for. That doesn't work like that. The other thing I was going to say is we're very rule-based in planning. If you'd read today about the 50 houses that have been passed on appeal, and effectively the officer will have said to the local parish, you know, to Mrs. Noskell, they've sort of said, you know, this will not get through appeal. And that would be taken as the officer not doing their duty. Well, it went to committee against the officers, and the committee said, yeah, we believe you, we're going to deal with our residents, and we're going to go to appeal. So they went to appeal, and they lost, because the planning officer was entirely right. The rules are they are, and if you think it is bad now, with the pressure to build in Cornwall that we're going to have, with all these extra houses to come in, the rules are going to change. It's going to be, as long as you can say you're reasonably sustainable, whatever that means, then it's going to be pushed through. So where an officer actually turns around and says, I'm going to pass this, because, you know, I'm sorry, I hear what you say, but I'm going to pass it because it meets planning criteria. It does absolutely no good. And I mean, the Bristol was different because that had 700 objections and it basically breached all sorts of planning rules. And the system broke down because of 2 individuals. Forget about that. But normally, and this is exactly what happened to this one with the 50 houses. The officer said it isn't going to get through appeal, and it didn't. So everybody felt a lot better because they went along to full council. And possibly even was Mr. Fitter was on the committee that actually objected to this development. And it was a waste of everybody's time and money because the officer was right. But the town resent what the officers did. So I think you have to understand that the officers apply the rules. I don't think I've ever come across a case where I'm thinking they've been bribed or anything like that. I just haven't come across like that. They are making their decisions to the best of their abilities and the best of their training, and most times they are right. Doesn't mean to say I don't disagree with them all the time, but I don't feel that they're, in the words of this one, this is Lydia, they're sort of, what it's taking is basically say we call on Cornwall Planning and Enforcement to work closely with town and parish councils to do what the town and parish councillors are telling them to do. The officers are saying, I'm sorry, but the rules don't let you do that. And no wonder the parish councils get annoyed, but you know, you just have to rate it. This is the reality we face. So again, I would not support this motion. If somebody is going to put it, I will definitely vote against it.
Councillor Saray.
Thank you. I won't be voting for this, but I would suggest after Councillor Williamson that we potentially write back should it be appropriate and encourage the use of taking the opportunity to enjoin other town councils around Cornwall, because unless we're talking to one another, we don't know whether we're struggling with the same issues. My first year on this council, I was part of planning and found that quite insightful, and certainly sympathise with those who are still on the committee and dealing with these issues fortnight to fortnight. But I would strongly suggest that we write back and suggest that maybe if they're going to take a lead on this matter, they perhaps ask each of the chairs of various town and parish councils around Cornwall to feed back the top 3 key issues, and then Mayor Zion can perhaps take a lead in compiling a letter with slightly less aggression It doesn't need to be an all or nothing for a vote of no confidence, but maybe we, the undersigned, are all experiencing these issues and we would like to call Cornwall Council's attention to addressing them.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a proposer for the motion in 7A? So that is to, right, Councillor Larson, are you proposing? Okay, and do we have a seconder for that? No, that's what I'm just getting through the process correctly. Do we have a proposer? Do we have a seconder? I don't think we do, so we won't be supporting Marazion Council's motion. But I think what I'm hearing from the room is that we would support writing to Marazion and explaining, and the clerk has quite rightly captured all of your comments and will forward those on to Marazion. We have some frustrations, not necessarily specifically about officers, but some local issues for sure. So, okay, we'll move on. Oh, do you want to take a vote on that? Sorry. I'm happy to propose that we write that letter. Councillor Saray, second. All in favour? Any objections? One objection. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Okay. 7B then. So this one's quite interesting. Government consultation on strengthening the standards and conduct even framework for local authorities in England. Something that we've all, I think, discussed at one point or another over the last few years. Given some of the, well, personally, I think, the awful, was Eric Pickles? It was Eric Pickles, wasn't it? That ripped up any potential. Anyway, so code of conduct framework. Hopefully, we've all had a chance to have a look at this. The ask here is that as individual councillors, if we can take 5 or 10 minutes to please process a submission to this if we feel strongly enough. I certainly will be. The staff can also input, and I know that the clerk has already input his own feedback, and we are asking as a town council whether we'd be happy to put in a submission as well. Did you want to talk through this at all, Andy?
Only very briefly. Sarah Mason from CalC has just sent an email today outlining some suggestive responses. Effectively, this is an opportunity for the standards to be enhanced, to bring back things like suspension of office for really serious offences, and also being it's going a bit further than just giving an apology or training. I think that's the key. It's also talking about how does this get managed? Is that within a standards board within Cornwall Council, or should it have independent members? Should it be chaired by an independent member as opposed to just Cornwall councillors that can then determine code of conduct decisions? So there's a number of questions on that. It's very simple in terms of responding, and certainly the ask is, this is your one chance. We've been asking for this for 15 years. Please put in a response. But I think the key here is, if the council's minded to, we would like some authority to put in a council response that simply says effectively what CalC have said, that we do think there needs to be a few more steps beyond apology and training, and that some of these sanctions should be 6 months suspension for really serious offences, and it should be led by more independents as opposed to within an organisation that's effectively voting on sanctions for itself in some certain circumstances. Yeah. And that's effectively it.
Okay, so that as opposed to the almost consequence-free environment we find ourselves in today. Councillor Larson, then Councillor Morris.
Quick question, 6 months suspension. The idea of strengthened sanctions makes sense, but how would we deal with capacity? We're already facing chorus issues without having people.
Yeah. So as an example, if a member of the council has done something so serious, this authority cannot operate because you've either lost staff or members simply don't want to come to meetings anymore because of that individual, you cannot stop them. Whereas this, potentially, if they're suspended for 6 months, they're no longer a councillor. So they're not able to come. They haven't got legal framework to come.
Can we replace them to keep up our resources as a council?
I think the two issues are very different. So I think the resource issue, you're going to have wider resource issues with other members wanting to resign because of the conduct of that member, where you cannot stop them from attending meetings, as well as the financial fallout. This is very much about worst case scenario, when someone's done something really bad and they're continuing and they keep doing it. They may have been found guilty before and they're doing it again. So they haven't learned from their mistakes. That's what this is about now.
In that case, why would we not just ask that they would be able to be fired, so to speak? I mean, a suspension, if somebody's been that far in breach repeatedly, as I think you just said, then surely they should not be a councillor.
And that's the point. So the only way to remove
Suspension,
yes, the only way to remove a councillor is through suspension, or they haven't attended meetings for 6 months. So there is no legal framework. It's not employment law. You can't just say you're fired.
So this brings essentially almost in line with employment law for councillors, and those working in the, in that setting. Councillor Morris, then Councillor Thompson, then Councillor Williamson, then Councillor
Actually, I don't need to even ask anything because Andy's just answered mine.
Okay, so Councillor Thompson, same thing. Williamson?
Hi, yes, I really support this piece of progressive legislation, and it's shocking that it's not in place already. I think we are all volunteers here, and we should be able to come to these meetings with a safe frame of mind, that we won't get bullied or harassed by anybody either in the meeting or outside of the meeting. So we should all be on our best behaviour because we are representing our constituents. So I am very pleased, and I would hope that this encourages a more diverse representatives of councillors as well, that people feel that they can be a councillor because they will be safe and welcomed here despite differences in politics. So yeah, I think it's great.
Thanks, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Kenny?
I'm worried about the 6 months because, as you point out, if you suspend someone for 6 months who's been elected as a councillor, you are effectively kicking them out. And although they say it's only for the most serious cases, I think that is too strong. I would say 5.5 months, perhaps. The other thing is that regretfully, I'm sure all of us have come across cases where standards and standards complaints have been used as weapons against individuals. It's certainly happened to me. And there is nothing here about these sort of vexatious complaints that are not, that they are simply not, they have no validity. And yet we get vexatious complaints. So I'm concerned about this, that it's all about let's punish councillors. And there's nothing here to protect councillors. So I would wish to go, I don't know if there's anywhere in this, because they're it's a typical government thing, that they want you to ask the question that they want you to answer rather than think wider. I don't know if there's a comic thing, but I'm very concerned, and we've had it recently, of people are just misusing the what it is. And if you can actually kick a councillor out by getting them, that's appalling.
But would vexatious complaints be termed as harassment, and therefore you can counterclaim?
I think Andy wants to come in on this one, and then we'll go to Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, I was just quickly reading the notes from the calc submission that's gone in. Certainly the vexatious point has been made in their submission, and it's around the standards board itself, looking at that. So you have the officer triaging, they investigate. If they deem it's not vexatious and they've taken it to the next level, it goes to a standards board, which they're suggesting should be independently chaired. And that board will then look at all the evidence and determine, okay, it's not vexatious, you have done something really, really bad. You're either going to go through the same process of apology, coming off a committee because it's a financial matter and you can't sit on that committee for a period of time, or what they are suggesting is a 6 month, not disqualification, but a 6 month suspension. And that is for really serious cases. They are underlining the fact that it's very serious cases, and some of the examples that are being given from other councils, so not in this submission, is around where members have bullied finance staff to try and get invoices paid. And so that's really serious. If that happened within an employment context, you would potentially be looking at gross misconduct and instant dismissal. So I think that's where they're saying it's extremes, and they're not suggesting 6 month suspensions for minor offences where training and apologies and trying to mediate and first offences and things like that.
Thanks, Andy. Councillor Brooke, then Councillor Hannan, and then Councillor Towell. Thank you.
Yeah, mine's about checks and balances. It's the same sort of thing, and you kind of raised a few of the issues. I mean, I don't know what level of detail we're going to respond to or what will eventually be agreed, but I would say that independent adjudication bodies need to be transparent, and so they would have to publish their reasonings and their justifications. There should be a right of appeal, and also within that, some form of graduated response about. So there's stages of complaint implementation, and then the final thing is, in a similar way that arbitration asks people to cooperate prior to the decision. The decision should be accepted, and that should be part of what councillors sign when they sign up to become councillors, that they accept that this process is a valid process and the decision's final.
Okay. Yeah, you can come back on that. Yeah.
Come back on a few points. The publishing of decisions is contained in here. Cornwall Council is one of the few councils actually that does publish its decisions. Not many do. Right of appeal is in here, and it also talks about how does that work. At the moment, the government's consultation suggesting 5 to 7 days to lodge an appeal, and actually Calc and myself and others are suggesting, well, that should be a minimum 14 days because that's just unreasonable in terms of a member trying to appeal a decision. In terms of support, I forgot to mention that with Councillor Kenny, they're also suggesting in the consultation that members actually have access to support, which is new. At the moment, you don't have any support other than the independent person that you can phone and talk through issues with, but actually they're suggesting we look at a wider package of welfare and support, particularly for members that feel isolated from their council. So they would be supported in that respect.
Councillor Hannan, then Councillor Towell, then Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just with what Councillor Kenny said earlier about the concern that if an imposing of a maximum 6-month ban then resulted in expulsion from the council, I think that point needs to be clarified because I don't think that's correct. We have a rule that if you don't attend council meetings voluntarily for 6 months, then you can automatically be expelled from the council. I'm not convinced that were you subject to a 6-month ban for a breach, that would automatically expel you. I think you'd be able to come back, and that needs clarifying because I would be alongside Councillor Kenny that if a 6-month ban automatically threw you out the council, you may as well throw them out the council at day one. So I don't think that's right. I think you can have a 6-month ban and come back. It's not the same as not turning up voluntarily for 6 months and then you're expelled.
Thank you. Councillor Towell.
Any process that leads to suspension or a 6-month ban has to be laid out very clearly with process. The point about appeal has already been made, and I made this point down at County Hall in the Standards Committee when we were discussing this, that there is a danger that it can be used as a weapon, a political weapon. The whole thing could be a kangaroo court. So there is that concern behind this. And I made a point to our solicitor, Matt Stokes, and he said he hadn't even considered it as a possibility. Now, it deserves more thought than that. As long as there's due process and a clear set of rules behind it, then that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
A couple of things. First of all, the process. Are you asking us to email our comments to the clerk so he can coordinate them and do a response? Or are we doing it now?
So I think there's two things. I think as councillors, we should all be submitting our own individual responses. And you've clearly everyone's got some strong views on this, and so hopefully we will all go ahead and do that. I think secondly, what we're asking is that an overarching submission be made on behalf of the town council, taking into account the comments that everyone has made. I note that there are in the submission a number of opportunities for free text, and so we can capture everything from the recording that everyone has commented, particularly around ensuring due process and not being used as a political weapon in that submission, if everyone's happy with that. So that will be, so there's two parts really.
In which case, I would like to make a comment on question 11, because this is all about publicity. And I'm just talking about my own history here. I mean, I had one case when there was absolute twaddle, and they also complained about the local the local standards people. So it was sent up to London and it went into a queue. As a result, every week for about 3 months, there was a report in the Newquay Voice about how I was under investigation for a standards board, and I wasn't able to go in and say this is absolute twaddle. And eventually, after about 3 or 4 months, they came back and said, oh, look, you're totally exonerated. It wasn't true. So there is a thing about confidentiality. And then they sort of said they want to publish, I mean, the Cornwall Council does publish all allegations as a number. Now, one of the ones I got was for somebody else. They mistook whoever it was. It was some other Joanna, somebody around it. It wasn't me. That went down on my record. They corrected it and allocated it to the right person. And on my record, I have a complaint against me for somebody completely different. So I feel very, very strongly that there shouldn't be publicity. You can't stop people going along with it. Look what I've complained about Joanna, which is exactly what they did. Went to the Voice and did that. But they should only be publishing cases where of wrongdoing. I think this nonsense about you're being accused. I mean, in planning, we get complaints. You have no idea, girls, how much, and gentlemen, how many complaints that have actually arrived against each of us individually and have been just kicked out because they're nonsense. And, you know, so I have had the press coming to me and say, why have you got 6 complaints against you? I thought, I didn't know I had. And they were nonsense. So I feel very, very strongly that if you're found guilty of wrongdoing, it should be published, but not otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kenny.
Please get that one in.
Okay. Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, just briefly. So I think the detail is in the process. I think that's where we're going to create something that's workable here. And to that end, what I would ask is it possible that we can by all means raise these points, but don't necessarily take a position as a council that commits to the process yet, because it's an evolving document, isn't it? So we can make some points, but we won't say this is 100% our process, our position, and we will, you know, die on that hill, because I think it's going to have to result in a negotiation between various people. So that would be I will obviously do this individually, and we can all submit individually. But I think if we take a rigid position, then that could back us into a corner at this stage.
Through the chair, I think it's a fair comment. As an authority, if you prefer not to take a direct view on some of these matters, they are specific questions, and it's obviously a national government policy and guidance consultation. So if we give some narrative to some of it, but we do not take a position on it must be 6 months, it must be 5.5, or then it's down to all their evidence gathering and the individual submissions that everyone hopefully will make.
Thank you.
One last thing is that there's obviously a precedent somewhere, because nothing is new in the world, and so I think that if they get it right, they will be drawing on those precedents to create the checks and balances that we need.
Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's been really interesting to hear other people's views on this, and Joanna, very much support that position that you said about the publicity element. And if there is no publicity, then it might help restrict the number of vexatious tit-for-tat type complaints too, because there's nothing that the other person can gain. And I think getting the process as accurate and good and right as possible is obviously what we would hope that they would do. But as we've starting from a completely blank page at the moment. I think any movement forward can only be seen as a good thing, as long as there are those reviews in place to kind of keep amending it. You know, we don't want another violent dog act type situation, but you know, we need to have some protection for us.
Thank you. So on that basis then, and again, I once again encourage everyone to submit their own personal thoughts on this online. I'm going to propose then that we give delegated authority to the clerk to collate the submission on behalf of us all and as on behalf of the town council, based on the notes that he's recorded and the recording of this evening. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Brooke, all in favour? Thank you. That was unanimous. Perfect. So, item 8, Mayor's announcements. Just a couple of quick ones. I was excited to attend the Cornwall Brass Band Association Festival on Saturday at St Michael's Church. I was invited and I took my 3 children along, and we were there for a good few hours. Managed to get there in time to see the Newquay Brass Band play, among others including Roach, both spectacular performances. And I just wanted to it noted on the record that the Cornwall Brass Band Association did a wonderful job of holding that festival on Saturday. And I look forward to going to it again next year, actually. And I was, I don't know why I was surprised, but my 3 children had a wonderful time as well. I think they were surprised, if I'm honest. So thank you to them for hosting us, and we had a wonderful time. And the other one this week, I know Councillor Motta on Sunday took part in the Newquay 10K, and I know I mentioned it in my column this week, and I thought I'd mention it on the record here as well. What a wonderful job Newquay Roadrunners did of putting together a super safe and well-attended 10K event running around the streets of Newquay. I understand more than 900 people took part. And I know Councillor Motta, who can often be found running around the southwest with his partner, noted that it was one of the safest and well-run events that he'd ever been to. So I hope you don't mind me saying that, Councillor Motta. So well done to Newquay Roadrunners for all they're doing. Thank you. Okay, moving on then. Item 9, financial statements. So these have all gone out via email. So just for noting, really, unless anyone has any particular queries or concerns, I'm happy to propose them. Do I have a seconder? Councillor North, all in favour? Thank you. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And now we've got item 10, open session for Cornwall councillors, verbal, written or tabled reports. I see 2 Cornwall councillors amongst us this evening. I will start with Councillor Town. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I haven't got a lot to report after all I have been away, but I would like to place on the record my thanks to Ollie Monk and Louis Gardner for covering physically a lot of my work when I was ill, and also to yourselves for picking up any slack that might have happened. I have tried to keep on top of my casework when I was away on my laptop, and hopefully I've done that. So thank you very much, and it should be business as usual going forward from now on. So thank you.
No, please. Thank you and thank you for attending tonight, and it's great to see you back. Thank you, Councillor Tao. Councillor Fitter, the mic is yours. And of course, I'll reiterate what I say every time. Of course, you are more than welcome to join us on the floor. But I know you like it up there. You like it up there, don't you?
Well,
slightly higher than the Mayor.
May I join you in thanking and congratulating Councillor Towell on being able to come back to us and make a marvellous recovery. And it's nice to be joined by a fellow Cornwall councillor rather, no councillor. If I could just say, as Councillor Kenny very kindly mentioned me in passing to a application that was, I believe, in the Central Committee, and I have to say, in actual fact, it was unanimously rejected by committee, but I think one has to attend the meeting to understand the concerns, which were all planning based in actual fact, but not material enough for the planning inspector to decide that they weighed in favour of the application as against. And it should be pointed out, of course, in the report, the opening paragraphs or further, the inspector was mindful of the latest additions to the MPPF when making his decision. So whilst objections frivolous and no planning reasons should be vigorously rejected, there are occasions, I think, where the officers and the members may take a different point of view, and it may then be best to have it settled by an inspector, providing the reasons are planning related, and then you don't get costs. And so that's the great thing. If you're not planning related, then they can hammer you with costs, and then that's unfortunate. So I agree with everything else she has said, but on that occasion, that meeting, there was really material reasons. And anyway, going on, I had a meeting this evening with residents of St Cullen Minor, and they brought to my attention, and I said I'd pass it on to you, Mr Mayor, and to you, Mr Town Clerk. Priory Woods, there is the BMX bikes are again operating, and they've cleared areas of the woodland to make turn-ins, and somebody's been cutting down the trees there and cutting up logs and stacking the logs at the side of the road, and they wondered who was entertaining it because there was vehicles up and down there. And they noticed also that bird feeders had been attached to the trees and at various locations on the path. And whilst they don't, they're all very college. Did Councillor Thompson want to come in now? Or?
Yeah, can I do that? I think you'll find that's the environment facilities team, that they've been in there and they've started the management plan of gradually clearing the scrub, and there's going to be so I don't think it is the BMX. I could be really wrong. It could be that as well, but I know they have been in there. Down, I think, where they had the BMX clearance, because they're looking to do an outdoor classroom and things, so they'll be stacking the logs up and all sorts of things. So I think it might be misinterpreted.
Right. Okay. Well, I think possibly, Mr. Mayor, may I suggest that some sort of communication is sent out to St Cullen Minor Residents Association, or is sent to me, so that I can inform the people of what's going on. The observation made relating to the bird feeders, of course, I think was pertinent in so much as that they felt it'd be more appropriate to put nesting boxes in the location and not bird feeders, because they're Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, yeah, it's just they're working with the students at Newquay University, and there's bird feeders going around, and the nest boxes will go up when we can get the higher tier sponsorship. But I think the university wants to put bat boxes up as well. So I think it's all being carefully thought out. You know,
we'll clarify this with the environment manager, and we'll come back to you, John.
Through you, then, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And perhaps Councillor Thompson will bring it. If I could have the details of what's happening, I can then share it with the residents. They're not anti anything, and but they're very pro conservation, and they do. And as for the BMXs, they assure me that the young people have been up there and they've formed some agreement with the holiday park, that the holiday park have bicycles and they can come down and use their track in the woods, and so that's it. Watergate car park, sir, I'm still pressing Cornwall Council. Indeed, I had a communication. I'm waiting for a further communication because I've asked for assurances that they will not now pursue in passing Watergate Bay car park over to this Birmingham-based management company. And the reply is that they're going to look into my concerns and come back to me. So I'm still addressing the concerns of Newquay residents.
So do we have a decision in terms of a time frame for the decision on all of the wider car parks, including Watergate Bay? Or
no, we
not at all.
Don't. This is being driven by Councillor Councillor Ollie Monk, isn't it? I think it's under his remit, I believe. In actual. Sorry, Councillor Donovan. Yes, I thought
Possibly.
it was something to do with planning as well. You're probably right, Councillor Kenny. But anyway, I can't, and neither can you probably concern yourself with the, you've got your Newquay ones. I'm only interested in securing the fate of Watergate Bay because I think it's strategic to the interest of Newquay. Complaint about the St Cullen Minor bus. We managed to get the bus put in to St Cullen Minor, which was absolutely brilliant, and it's well used and well attended. Unfortunately, complaints this evening is that the bus now doesn't stop at all. It goes in Leader Road at one end, stops at the bottom of Leader Road, the first end, and then sweeps on around, comes in at the bottom end, and then stops at the bottom end. Now, the people from the Ralton Heights are saying, look, hang on, you know, we come up from our heights up the steps, and then they go into a road and then up the top. The bus doesn't want to stop for us anymore. So I'll take that up with the bus company. I think we'll have to have a designated bus stop put there because it seems ridiculous that the bus goes around. And whether it's because their route timing is so tight, they can't stop, you know, sort of thing, or they're being held up. But I think it defeats the object of the exercise, the introducing it, and then the people then from the Ralton Heights have to flog all the way down the road to Leader Road. So it's a the build out of the master. I don't know if you received the application, Mr. Town Clerk, or indeed Councillor Kenny. There's a number 2 an amendment going in, and I discussed with Mark Evans again this morning to extend the build out by 2 days. Now, this is it's going to be submitted to you as a non-material amendment. I shan't be wanting to challenge it because, however, I don't agree with putting the elastic. It's a piece of elastic, but having said that there, I personally would not support any call to make it a full planning application, take it to the committee, because I can't think of nothing more bizarre than taking something like that to the Strategic Planning Committee and objection to a further 2 days extension of a build out of a, you know, however strongly one may feel, it'd be rather bizarre. And I think that the Planning Committee, so I hope that you will not wish to pursue it and leave it go through as a non-material amendment in which it can be signed off by the officer. Councillor Kenny may well have a different view, and it will. No, it'll come to you because it's been sent in today, discussed today, and I just want to brief you because I think that if we can work together on that and object where we have genuine objections and not, you know, and I don't agree with the, you know, this constant coming back for more. It's like Oliver Twist, isn't it? You know, coming back for more, but on this occasion, coming back for more 2 days, yes, it has an impact, and I'm meeting with them on Friday, and I don't know if any from the Town Council is meeting with the Board Master Party, but I'm meeting with them, and I've had various emails backwards and forwards over my concerns, and we will agree on that one to, you know, let it go forward. I'm not going to object anyway, but I'll pick up some other concerns that I've had. The report relating to the surge has not yet been completed by Cornwall Council. Their investigations are still ongoing, but they assure us, me and other people have asked, that the report will be completed and will be issued, if necessary, in a redacted form, and so that we would be able to provide reassurance to the residents of Newquay and indeed the visitors who came, who send their children up there, that they're going to be safe, and I'm sure that standards will have improved. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John. And just to answer your questions, I'm meeting with Boardmasters tomorrow, and I will raise that as well with them. In answer to your, I think you're absolutely right on the bus stop. I think Councillor Thompson has long spoken up about the bus routes around that particular area, and I know it's frustrating. We've struggled to get any of them amended. And in terms of the car parks, John, well, I think you know where I stand on that.
Yeah.
And, you know, whilst you'll be very obviously concerned with the Watergate one, we are significantly concerned as a town council about all 5 proposed car park going over to AMPR in Newquay. Because as mayor, even this summer past, I've had numerous emails, messages on Facebook, phone calls from concerned residents and tourists who have visited either Fistral or South Fistral car parks during their time in Newquay and received fines. And that's not the image that we want our visitors to Newquay to leave with, is a fine from an AMPR car park. So I think there's a better way. I think you probably agree.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, and certainly from my bailiwick, obviously Cullen Minor and Newquay Port, or which I prefer to call it St Cullen Minor Port, and related to its old name, but that's another point. That I will support you in your endeavours. I will fully support Newquay. There is no question about that. What I was saying is that my individual concern is just purely for Watergate Bay, because I can act as a local member for that.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you, John, and thank you for your support as always, and thank you for coming this evening. Please stay. Thank you. Anyone got any questions for John? Or Councillor Fitter, I should say. Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right place to raise it in the whole proceedings, but call to both Cornwall councillors who are here this evening, and very pleased to see you both. But I don't know if you've seen online that there is a rapidly growing big concern about the death of 4 dogs over the last couple of weeks within Newquay, and that other dogs have been very, very poorly after going to the beach. Now, the cause of their illnesses has not been identified, mainly because when I spoke to one of the parents of one of the dogs that died, they'd already exhausted their insurance and paid several £1,000s for treatment of the dog, and any autopsy of the dog would have then cost them some additional couple of grand, which they just did not have in December. So they don't know why the dog died. Some people are saying it might be hemlock. Some people are saying it could be sewage and pollution. So, and, you know, it's a mystery. I know Newquay Town Council have been flagged as to be aware of this, and apparently Cornwall Council are investigating what this could be, but hemlock's been found on Porth, and Taryn has had issues, Fistral has had lots of issues, and others. So we can't, what I think a lot of people are struggling to understand is what exactly are Cornwall Council doing about it? What does this investigation comprise of? And how will we know? Because no one is going to take their dogs onto any beach when there is a risk that there is something either in the sea or coming from rivers or other sources that is going to make not just our dogs, but what if it's a child, you know, or an adult? Adults are important too. So, you know, that's just, if you can investigate on our behalf, I would be exceptionally grateful.
Well, if I can speak on behalf of Councillor Towell and say that certainly jointly we've picked up what you said, and I will, with Councillor Towell, will direct the remarks and find out exactly what the investigations are. I didn't know, in actual fact, it was quite widespread as what you're saying on various beaches. So it would indicate to me that it's something that is not generic to streams and sewage, you know. But I will, with Kevin Towell, Councillor Towell, we'll public health and protection are going to be the people that are supposed to be involved. So I'll find out. We'll find out exactly what's happening, get a report, and then send it to the mayor, the clerk, and then it can be circulated to the members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitter. Just before I bring in Councillor Towell and Councillor Morris, I think the clerk has something he wants to say about this. Yeah,
sorry, through the chair, we have been copied into an email chain, Councillor Fitter, which I'm more than happy to forward to you because it's from Cornwall Council. They are suggesting hemlock as potential cause, but there's a bit of a disagreement at the moment whether they're going to actually investigate or not.
Right.
And so I'll forward the full string so you can see, because originally we were suggested that they were going to investigate.
There was a warning about that particular plant that looks like sort of type of potato, isn't it? You know, well, I forget what that potato is long.
No one can touch it.
Pardon? Yes.
If an adult touches it,
And
you
it's
are
coming
very
out of
poorly.
it comes from the streams and that, doesn't it? And it's washed down the rivers. Yeah. But and then perhaps the tide disperses it. We'll have to see. But if Councillor, if the clerk can send it over, and then
we'll do that.
Councillor Towell and I will pursue this, and we'll try to get a more definitive answer, because I think they have a responsibility. Yes, to elucidate what answer is. Yeah, so I will do that.
Thanks, Councillor Vitter. Councillor Tao, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you. I have heard it was hemlock as well, but this is disputed by some of the dog owners. So it's still an ongoing mystery. But we're happy to work with John and see if we can get you some answers.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
I heard an announcement on the way here. Actually, they've actually advised every dog owner to keep the dog on a lead while on the beach.
Okay, thank you. Good to get to the bottom of that one with the public health team for sure. Okay, so moving on then. Item 11, committee minutes and reports, and we start with C&T. So I'll hand over to the Vice Chair of C&T, Councillor Saray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, in the absence of the Chair today, I take pleasure in presenting the minutes from the meeting the 23rd of January of this year.
Thank you. Did anyone, did we have a seconder for those? Sorry. Councillor Saray presumably is going to propose those. Seconder? I'll happily second. All in favour? That was painful, wasn't it? What's wrong with C&T? No one likes C&T? I know. Okie doke. So, and I think you've got a recommendation for some terms of reference changes as well?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this refers actually to decisions mooted possibly in the autumn, both regarding the day of the week, a Thursday, and then also details of a substitute member. I think that was yourself, actually, Mr. Mayor.
Indeed. Okay, I assume you're proposing those? To keep it less painful, I'll second those. All in favour? Thank you. That's good. Any objections or abstentions? No. Abstention. Thank you, Kevin Towell. Abstention. Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Saray. 11B then, Councillor Kenny for planning.
Deep breath. I'm going to propose these for noting in one fell swoop. So for the planning and licensing meetings of the 30th of October, the 6th of November, the 20th of November, and the 3rd of December. We've had a couple since then. And I would thank my committee and the substitutes who've managed to keep us quiet through having a meeting every other week, and that's a real achievement for volunteers. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. That's nice to hear. Presume you're proposing. Have a second. A quick hand up for that one. Look. All in favour?
P&L can't.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like Fight Club over there, isn't it?
Are we all P&L?
One abstention. Sorry, Councillor Tao. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. And then I've got item 12. It's my motion. So noting that we have had a number of in-quora meetings across the board over the last few months, actually, and this is causing some operational issues, mainly in terms of getting the job done for our constituents and for the town. And it seems to be the same members just not turning up to meetings. So what I've done is I'm proposing that we make an amendment to the terms of reference to Environment and Facilities Committee to allow for the rest of this term an additional, or to appoint a substitute member who can stand in place of committee members and have given the notice of unavailability to the meeting. So I'm happy to propose that change to the terms of reference of Environment and Facilities. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Margaret North. All in favour? Any objections? Any abstentions? I know what you're going to say, Councillor Kenny. One abstention from Councillor Tao. Councillor Kenny, you're going to tell me it's really important that planning and licensing is quorate as well.
Yes, I am, but we have 3 subs and they've all shown up at
Yes.
various times. So what I was going to say was, I noticed that you are now putting attendance so you can go into an individual councillor and see what their attendance is like. I was horrified that this was actually calculated by if they didn't show up and the meeting wasn't quorate, the meeting didn't take place, it's scrubbed off is there a way we can actually put the stats up to say you were supposed to be there for 13 meetings and you weren't there for 13 meetings, not you didn't show up, the meeting was in quorate, so therefore you were only attending 12 meetings.
The clerk, yes, absolutely. The clerk has something to say on this.
I think the difficulty there is there's no minutes, no records of the meeting, and so whilst at the time an officer may make note of apologies or those that have attended, but within those 10 minutes, there is no paperwork to back that up. So if it's ever challenged, there's nothing audit trail wise that we can do, and there is no legal framework to take notes of a inquorate meeting. It is inquorate, it has to get either rescheduled or it is missed and the next one goes ahead, which is as equally frustrating for officers as it is for members, I can assure you. And just on the other point, it would be very helpful to have volunteer.
Yes,
Thank you.
Councillor Town, quickly then.
Can you class this as a scheduled meeting? A scheduled meeting. So if a councillor doesn't turn up, then even if it's in court, it's still a scheduled meeting.
The clerk is musing on this one and we'll take that one away. Thank you, Councillor Tao. Councillor Brooke, and then I'll come back to Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, so on the scheduled meeting things, I mean, a question to Councillor Kenny, is it true that we reschedule our in-quorate meetings? So we do reschedule our in-quorate meetings.
We rescheduled the one where it was snowing.
So
and we do reschedule. If you don't show up, the punishment is.
So if we are going down the attendance process, we would also have to account for ones that were in the calendar but then get rescheduled, and that would also have to be taken into account on final aggregated attendance issues.
That's a potential there from the clerk. Councillor Kenny.
Slightly off, but I read today that I was one of the few people who were actually able to attend GNR in a fortnight. And now it's not the normal suspects who aren't attending. We all know who isn't attending the committees, but this is presumably not the normal suspects. Is that going to be rescheduled? Because it's actually quite an important
Yeah, so
meeting.
apologies. I'm actually on holiday for that one, as is Councillor North, so apologies for that one. Half-term joys. I was chatting to the clerk earlier. We are going to go out to the committee with urgent matters via email, but our intention is to hold an alternate meeting if needs be, and there is some urgent work that's required and some decisions for us to make around some of the work coming out of the corporate plan, so expect that in your inboxes imminently.
Any chance of it not being a Monday?
Yes, because you have singing on a Monday, yes. And I saw you at Christmas singing. You were very, very good, I have to say. I was really impressed, genuinely impressed. I've never heard you sing before. It was very good, very, very good. No, it's on the record. I want it noted, in fact. Councillor Kenny, very, very good. Yeah. Sorry, I've started something now. Yes, I've lost where I was. Yes, so there we go. So we're now looking for a substitute member for ENF, and I know that Councillor Brooke did mention to me that he would be happy just for the next couple of months, just to make sure that meetings were quora and that we could get the good work done on behalf of the residents of Newquay. So is that okay, Councillor Brooke? I've nominated for the remainder of this term. Do we need to vote on it? So I'll propose then. Can I have a seconder, Councillor North? All in favour? Before Joe blinks. Any objections or abstentions? Okie doke. 2 abstentions. Do you put your hand up? Are you objecting? No. You with? I'm with it, but I missed it. Okay. Quite hard work tonight, isn't it? Okie doke. We're still in that New Year funk. Okay, so that one's done. 12B, ENF in court meeting, email decision around public conveniences, and this is about the installation of contactless payment at the Killicourt toilets, which is urgently required after the very successful rollout of contactless payment at the Narrowcliffe toilets, and helps eat into that you know, the cost of running the toilets, and obviously the Killicourt's a really busy one. So what would you like for me to... Sorry, do you want to take it?
Yep, so effectively on page 2 of the report open to members, there is a recommendation to approve the quotation of £11,188.17 to install 2 contactless units and 1 contactless/coin hybrid units at the Killicourt toilets. It is seen as an urgent one because the Killicourt potentially does generate a number of, well, it's a high footfall, and it's obviously intrinsically linked with events and things that the Town Council puts on. The units themselves have been selected because of the quality of them. We do have experience of the other provider, and unfortunately it's falling below the standard we expect, and so that's why it's the other option. And unfortunately, obviously the meeting was in quorum, so it couldn't be done at a meeting, but it was done via email by members, so it is a recommendation via email.
Perfect, thank you. Do I have any questions? Councillor Hannan.
It's only a technicality, and it may be because it's not quorum, but I just noticed it's not been signed off by anybody.
No, it's well noted, in fact.
Not been signed off by at least the Deputy Chief Exec, which I believe is a requirement.
Indeed, and presumably the RFO and yourself. What would you like for me to do?
All I can say is certainly I didn't sign off this particular report. I am raising it internally to find out why it's gone to members without the sign off, but I'm conscious that this may have been something that had to have been done quite quickly.
Sure.
So I wouldn't like to say any more than that.
No, okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay, so we'll look into that. But in the meantime, any other questions on that? No. Are we happy to, anyone happy to propose that? Councillor North, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hannan, all in favour? Thank you, and that's that one, EMR release. Perfect. Item 13, Chairman's other business, and we'll just go around the room for AOB. I know Councillor Morris wants to read a short statement, which I have allowed him to do. I'll remind you, a short statement, Councillor Morris, please. Thank you. The floor is yours, Councillor Morris.
Right, 2 things. First of all, I want to apologise to you, yourself, for what I did to you. Basically, I like the way you should have stood up for the car park, yes, but I just didn't like the way you did it. And I should have come and spoke to you first. I'm sorry. Second thing is, I've been telling a lot of people I'm actually not restanding in May. That has changed. I am standing. I'm actually standing for Reform UK.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Morris. And that just for clarification, please.
Does that mean you're standing for the Town Council?
Yes, town and county.
Thank you. Can you push your button, Councillor Morris, to turn that off? Thank you. And just for anyone that wasn't aware, that was I think Councillor Morris had submitted a code of conduct complaint because I'd attended a protest with residents, to listen to residents with regards to the plan handing over of car parks to Cormac and obviously essentially initial. and because I was wearing the chains as mayor. But it was deemed that that was absolutely appropriate by the presiding officer at Cornwall Council. Is that right? That's the right wording, yes. Any other business? Councillor Williamson.
Hello. I just wanted to let people know about something that I have been doing with called Newquay Convening Partnership, and Liz is part of it as well. And it's being run by Newquay Trenance School. So Mr. Williams, headmaster there, gets people from Newquay Town Council Corporate Services, Newquay Junior, Imagine Outdoors, Time to Move, Wax, Cornwall Council, Alma, Newquay Orchard, who also host the meetings, for Motion CIC, Active Cornwall, Treviglas, and Kerno Learning and Treveth. And the purpose of it is to try to build trust with marginalised families who may be going through some sort of difficulty. Those difficulties could be multiple and various, to provide more access for their children to go to after-school clubs or other types of activities for multiple reasons, perhaps to enable the caregiver to go to work, maybe to pick up some more hours to improve the income of the family. Maybe it's to socialise that child with other groups of people, and it's trying to take the barriers down that exist from both the organisation of it, the cost of it, the logistics of getting to and from. So, for example, Matt Williams uses the Trenance school van to take some of the kids there that they've approached and asked whether they want to go, so to a Pinky-led session and back and things. So it's really to try to eradicate, and I'm reading this because they've written it really well, to eradicate educational disadvantage across the Southwest, which I think would be an absolutely wonderful thing if we can even make a dent into that. So yeah, if anybody wants to know anything more, we don't meet very often, every other month or so. I think the next meeting is in March. But yeah, if anybody wants any more information about it, please do let me know, and happy to discuss.
Thanks, Councillor William. Brilliant initiative. I've been along to a couple of the convening partnership meetings myself, working closely with Matt as a governor at Trenance as well. So, brilliant group of people and doing some cracking work. So well done, you. Any other AOB? Councillor Saray?
I believe I am still this council's representative at Newquay Safe. Just to let you know, I'm still attending, and often they come and ask if I have anything to put forward from members of this council. So please do approach me. I would love to go with any of your particular issues or concerns or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Saray. Councillor Kenny?
Sorry, I missed. I think it's probably worth saying that Newquay Clean, which is the sort of follow-up to Newquay Safe, has been reinvigorated. Currently, I attend as an individual, not as a representation of the town council, and the facilities manager or whoever goes along to attend to that meeting. I don't know if you want to have a councillor representative. I'm quite happy not to be the councillor representative. I'm quite happy to have the facilities team, because they are the supplier. But I don't know if you've got any thoughts on it. It's a good little, it doesn't do anything. It just calls, it allows people like Biffa, the facilities team, Cornwall Council, just to meet together, like Newquay Safe, so that when there is a problem to do with keeping with waste or with undergrowth or something like that, or litter, that, the people all come together and you get a solution that way, which is exactly what Newquay Safe did.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kenny. And I sort of invited myself along to that as well, actually. So, but we will pass that on to ENF and ask them if they would like to have an official member of the town council attend those meetings. They're a good bunch, actually, Jess and Laura. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, sorry for mentioning that. I've heard quite a few comments and concerns about people living on the streets where they've been turning the street lighting off. So I didn't know if Newquay Safe could actually go out and talk to the, find out why those streets, that is, I know why the Cornwall Council are looking to save money and they're doing it as a trial run, but the feedback that's coming back to us is that they don't like it. So I think there's going to be safe issues in the future. I mean, I know, you know, as a woman, there's a lot of streets with the LED lighting that we have at the moment that I'd feel uncomfortable walking down, let alone with street lighting going off. I think there's going to be issues in the future. So,
I think that my first question, thank you, Councillor Thompson, my first question would be just to forward me any specific examples of streets, because that will be the first question that I suspect I'll be asked. But I'm happy to raise the matter in general, but any distinct geographical focused information would be really useful, so I can push that with examples.
Yeah, specific. Does anybody know of which specific streets that is? It's selected that I think Grosvenor Avenue could be one.
Yeah, potentially. Let's pick it up offline and we'll get some examples to Councillor Ray. Thank you. Any other note? Laura, anything to add? Andy? No? Good. Okay, well, brilliant. The date of the next meeting then is the 5th of March 2025. I look forward to seeing you all there and have a good evening. Thank you.